All right. I think I got the camera mostly, sort of, kind of, a little bit worked on. Like, a little around the edges. I'm happy with the picture quality. I'll tell you that. I've never had a camera this, like, high end. I know that sounds really obnoxious, but I hate how I look on camera, and I like how I look with this camera. A little-ish around the edges. Progress, right? Progress, not perfection. It looks good. It sounds good. It always sounds good. And yeah, we're gonna get started. It's good to be back. It's good to do these writers chats. I think the world of them. I might like them more than the Monday nights. I really might. All right, let's. I still got 10 seconds. What the hell am I gonna say in 10 seconds? Drink water. Don't die. I hope you had a nice day. You look really nice today. You're amazing. I think the world of you. You're way cool. Okay, now we're getting started.
All right. Just remember what I've taught you.
What the fuck is that?
Hey, yo.
Every week, what happens is this. Every week, I swear to myself, hey, John, don't forget to change the chat stuff. Don't forget to change the bots and everything. And what do I forget to do every week? What's the thing I don't know until I see it spool by? I forgot to change the bots again. Oh, well, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Why are all my graphics off? Oh, right, hang on. Let's pop these suckers back on. Here we are. Hi. Hello. Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope you're doing okay. It's nice to be here. It feels weird and surreal to be here. It's been like a month-ish since we were last here, and I have to tell you, it feels very strange, very foreign. Like, which button do I press? And you know, now the camera's bigger, and now you're gonna see me like do shit, and it's gonna take some getting used to, right? We're gonna agree to be in this together, you and me, old chum. But it's good to be here, and I'm excited to be here, and this is gonna be a good one. So, I do want to pull that up real quick. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. You see, this is the sort of thing I should have done before the camera turned on, but you know how it goes. Nope, that's not it. That's it. All right, here we are. Shall we do the intro? Let's do the intro. To the intro. Where's my intro thing? There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends, writers, makers, doers, dreamers, planners, thinkers, creatives, soap enthusiasts, anybody who's ever had a kiddie pool, lovers of nacho cheese, partiers, anybody who's ever realized that they're out of batteries and it's too late to go get new batteries, or they just sort of like hope and pray that they can squeeze a couple more seconds out of their old batteries. Anybody who's ever tried to clean a room only to find like more stuff worth cleaning on the back half of the room. And most importantly, the comrades. Hi, this is the Writer's Chat for August the 17th. 17th? Yes, that's the date I'm looking at. August the 17th. Yes, I'm back. I know. No one's more surprised than me. I'm back. And that's the new camera. And these are the new lights. And it's growing on me. It's growing. I got a shitty haircut, but, everything else looking pretty good, feeling pretty good. And I think it's time to get started. If you've never done this before, if this is the first time you're being here, hi, I'm John. Hi. And it's my job to help you write better. We're going to do the best we can to answer some of the questions, a dozen of them, pulled from all comers and all corners of social media, as well as tonight I have a few special questions on my phone. I know. Ooh, it's very exciting. And whatever questions people have in chat. Hi, chat. How are you? That's nice. There's a 7-second delay I keep forgetting about. Hi. But I want to get started. I don't have any ads. I don't have anything else to plug. We're just going to dive in because I have 2 questions right off the bat. And I promised I would answer them first. So if you'll forgive me looking at my phone, I want to read these questions correctly. We're just going to move the microphone down here. John, you frequently say that writing is the act of making decisions. I do say that because writing is the act of making decisions. What's one decision that writers spend too much time fretting about but shouldn't? That's a great question. That's an amazing question. Here it is. And I got to frame it as a question, don't I? So let's see. How about people spend way too much time, way too much time sweating whether or not their stuff's any good. Like, is this good? And whatever this is, whether it's the book, the chapter, the page, the sentence, the word, the series, the whatever, they sweat far too much. Is it good? Because here's the truth of it. It's not about it being good. It has nothing to do with being good. It has everything to do with you doing your best with it and taking it as far as you can and doing as much with it as you can. Good isn't a factor. Good is such a subjective adjective. It's such a broad thing, because what's good for me might be something that you can't stand. And the degree of goodness is so immaterial and so impossible to predict that it's not like there's one universal bar that everybody agrees and says, oh, this is good. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed on the internet, nobody agrees on any goddamn thing. So to sweat whether or not your thing is good is pointless. What you need to be focusing on in that case is, am I doing the best I can with this idea, whatever it is? Yeah, let's go with that. There is a follow-up question, though. Ooh, I love a good follow-up question. Similarly, what's one decision writers should make often but don't? Well, I'm going to say it's the flip side of that same topic. The decision they should make and don't is that they're just going to take their work and take it as far as they can. Not like drag it over the coals. If it stalls out, they're determined they're going to make every idea a novel. Because let's be honest, not every idea is going to survive 70, 80, 90,000, 100,000 words. Sometimes your ideas suck. Not because you're you, but just because the idea and the way you've considered it naturally has some kind of border. Like, it just runs out of steam. You got to do more thinking about it. You got to do more developing with it. You got to work at it a little bit more. And then it can maybe down the road turn into something. But that takes time, and that takes skill, and that takes discipline, and that takes luck. And some of those factors are under your control, and some of those factors aren't. And I think the big hullabaloo, if I may use a word such as that, the big hullabaloo of it is that people don't want to think about that. They should just make the decision, okay, I'm going to give this a try and take it as far as I can, because they want to get bogged down in, like, I want to make sure I don't want to waste my time because I'm going to create something that other people like. How are you going to know what other people like unless you start offering things? You don't know these other people. The other people on the other, I'm pointing to you, the other people on the other side of the camera, on the other side of the page, the reader and the consumer, you have no idea who they are. You have no idea what they're into. So you just have to offer the best thing you can make, the best thing you can do. And if they like it, they like it. And if they don't, well, you'll find more people. There's billions of humans on the planet. You'll eventually, if you keep trying and if you keep improving and if you keep making an effort rather than just half-assing it or waiting for, inspiration to come hurtling through the window at you, you'll get there. You just have to keep trying. It might not be in the way you want. It might not be at the time you want. It might not be in the way you thought, but you will get there. You got to have a little bit of faith. You got to have a little bit of talent. You got to have a whole lot of discipline, and you got to keep working at it. Yeah, those are our bonus questions. We're starting that. That's how we're starting tonight. Holy shit. It's so good to be back. It's so good to be back. Let's start answering some questions, shall we? Question number 1, sort of related to what we just talked about. What do I do if my plot stalls out and I'm deep in the second act? Well, you're not going to like this answer, because chances are, if it really has totally stalled out, and let's qualify, let's explain what stall out means. A plot stalls out when, in the course of doing what you're supposed to be doing to resolve that plot, thinking through this scene to that scene to the next scene to the next scene, thinking through what the characters are going to do. If you run into a dead end and you're just like, well, I guess that's it, shit, and there's supposed to be more book coming, you have to stop. Like, because any new thing you bring into it, let's say, I don't know, we got to make one up that's going to stall out. You have to, like, the hero has to rescue the kidnapped person from the story, right? If you do that too early, if you just rescue them, anything that comes along where it's like, well, but really, actually, the real challenge was this bad guy lurking over there this whole time. What you're doing is taking whatever your first plot was and saying it's garbage, because you're now going to just wipe it away and shift the focus really hard to this new thing, to this evil wizard or whatever that second thing is. And no matter what it is, it's going to overshadow the first thing. Doesn't matter what the first thing is. Anytime you come real hard and real perpendicular to that first plot in an effort to sort of reinvigorate the story or pick it back up or kick it into shape, it's not going to work. So what do? You stop. Figure out a way to wrap your story up. It's short. You ran out of steam. Your options past that are to take this thing all the way back to early draft and outline and rebuild the plot, rebuild the premise so that it takes longer. Because if you're racing to get to the good stuff and you're racing to get to the climax and you're racing to get to where you think it's supposed to go, well, if you've hurried up to get there, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to have, 80, 90,000 words in most of these novels. What are you going to do for the remaining 30? Just kind of like aggressively twiddle your narrative thumbs? If your plot stalls out and you're deep in the second act and it's not a matter of just like, oh, I could insert some more, I can put some more clues, I can stretch out my action economy like we talked about on Monday night. We can narratively work with what I have. If your thought, if your plan, if your genius light bulb idea is to suddenly like bring in this other thing, no, you screwed up. Take it all the way back to the outline. Take it all the way back to draft. Start over. Otherwise, call it a day and move on. Be really careful if your plot stalls out. I don't mean, now, to be fair, just so we're clear, just so everybody knows, I don't mean stall out like it's taken forever and a day for you to get to where you want to be. I mean like it wraps up too quickly, like it just sort of fizzles out. That's a planning problem. That's not a drafting problem. A drafting problem would be you just keep writing and extending and extending and extending and writing more and writing more and writing more, and it never really seems to get anywhere because you keep pushing and delaying. Stalling out is it just sort of wraps up. If you're finding that's the case, the thing that you end up doing over and over and over again, you're planning too short a thing and you're trying to make it fit a big box. You're thinking of it in a 30 to 40,000 words and you should be thinking in 80 to 90. Most writers, especially new writers, tend to think smaller than they need to, and they just assume they can pad it out, when what you really need to be doing is thinking more in just linear terms. Here's my plot. It's the following number of problems. Each problem should take X amount of time or space to resolve. And the cumulative solution to all these problems, all these great steps along the way will get me to where I want to be. So if your plot's stalling out, it's back to the outline we go. Great first question. Lovely first question. I'm going to go to the next. Question number 2, a business question. How do I tell people to leave reviews if they've bought my book? Pretty much just like that. Hi. So, for example, you can, depending on how you're selling your thing, or you can, make this available via newsletter or email blast or whatever particular group you're using to communicate with whatever kind of community you're fostering, drop a note. Hi, thanks so much for buying my book. If you've bought my book, thank you so much. I really genuinely appreciate it. If you have bought it, or whatever you want to say to determine whether or not they've made the sale, I would really appreciate if you left a review. It takes 2 seconds. You provide the link for them to click so that they know what to do to leave the review. And then you just have to trust they'll do it. The majority of consumers don't leave reviews. You have to know that going into this. You're going to ask why. It's totally reasonable to ask why. Here's why. It takes too long. I mean, honestly, it comes down to a matter of minutes, but people will swear that's too long, whatever that means. But it takes too long, it's embarrassing, or it's boring, or they don't really see a benefit for themselves. I'll give you the benefit, okay? Here's the benefit for a reader in leaving a review. If this book, let's assume this book, let's do both sides. If the book is traditionally published and you bought it and you liked it and you're going to leave a review, if you liked it and you want to see more of it, the best way you can guarantee that there will be another book by this author in this series or whatever is to leave a positive review. Because that way they'll get algorithmic traction, the publisher will see it, the editor will see it, the author will see it, the algorithm will see it, it'll promote the book more, it'll lead possibly to more sales. More sales means the publisher will be happy. The publisher will then say, gosh, this book sold really well, we better make more of them. Your reviews or your lack of reviews have a direct impact in traditional publishing when it comes to producing more of the stuff you like. If you ever want to nuke a series dead in the water, the 2 things you can do. 1, you could absolutely, kill it in reviews. Leave 1 stars out the wazoo. Sure. Worse, though, is silence. Because silence, at least when you leave a 1-star review, things are negative and everybody knows where you stand. When you're silent, you're basically saying you're indifferent. You don't care. And I don't know about you, but that's not really the attitude I would want from the people who have consumed my material. I don't want you to be indifferent. I don't want you to be like, whatever. Well, it's how I just spent, whatever. I spent my time that way. I want you to be invested. I want you to care. If you ever want to kill a thing, be indifferent. But take the time and leave the review. And there's no shame in asking for a review from the people who've bought your book. And you can do it anywhere. Write an email, a newsletter, a blog post, a Facebook group post, a Discord message addressed to everyone. I don't know. Whatever way you're communicating with other people. You just ask. It doesn't make you arrogant. It doesn't make you snotty. It doesn't mean you're a jerk or anything. It's just, hey, you can leave a review. It takes 2 seconds. It doesn't need to be like, you don't have to, you're not the New York Times book club. You don't have to write like 1,000 words. Like 15, couple sentences. Hey, this book was really awesome. I really enjoyed it. I hope there are more in the series. I would totally read more by this author. That's all you have to say. It doesn't need to break down anything. You're under no obligation to deconstruct the nuances of the allegory that may or may not be in the story. You don't have to do any shit like that. You just got to say you liked the book. But you can absolutely ask for that. Don't be afraid to ask people to help you succeed. Okay? Great question. Let's go to the next. Question number 3, another business question. Where can I go to advertise my book if I don't have a newsletter? Okay. I don't know why you don't have a newsletter, but okay, let's assume you don't. Let's assume you just have something else. You got to have something. Doesn't have to be a newsletter, though newsletters are both really popular and really functionally successful. But let's assume you just have a blog. Let's assume you have a website with a blog on it, all right? You can just advertise on your website. You can make posts. You can go to Canva and create graphics. Why not? If you're looking to sort of advertise in spaces that aren't purely yours, you can advertise on social media. Tweets are free for now. You know, posts on other social media are free for now. You could post. You know, the problem is this. Here's the really big issue. Here's the really important thing. Way too many writers advertise and promote in what's called a closed environment. A closed environment, like a writing group on Discord, are potential consumers who are limited in number. So let's say you're in a Facebook group that has, 30 people. I'm just making up numbers. You're in a Facebook group with 30 people. Once you advertise to those 30 people, maybe, let's say you advertise 3 times, and each of those 3 times, 10 people buy the book. So now, by the end of 3 ads, everybody in the group's bought your book. There is no value in you advertising to them when everybody's already bought it. Closed environments like that, Discord groups, writing critique groups, Facebook groups, family group chats on your phone, all those things that have a limited population where growth doesn't happen organically or regularly, that's not bad to advertise to, but you've got a limited number of times you can advertise to them, because eventually everybody will either have purchased the material or the most number of people who could make the purchase have made the purchase. And then you're sort of sunk. You see this a lot when you jump on like whatever hashtag writing community thing there is, where it's just like, look at my book. Here's my sales link. The majority of your future consumership and readership, they're not in the hashtag writing community. They're not. They're not going to be. They don't give a shit about whatever drama is going on over there with those 2 people. They're not all up on Twitter. Like, the vast majority of people aren't. I understand that Twitter, TikTok, all that, very popular. I'm not saying they're not popular. But the majority of consumers have other shit to do. Jobs, families, bills, other interests, and your book is a very small piece of their pie. Advertise to them, aim to them. Go look at spaces and places where you haven't really been, but your people are out there. You're writing a Viking romance novel. Yeah, you can go tell your friends. You can go tell everybody in your writing group about it. But eventually you're going to have to go talk to romance reader enthusiast people and Viking enthusiast people and people who love, umlauts and all this other stuff. You're going to have to go outside your comfort zone to advertise. It does feel weird. It is uncomfortable, but I promise you it gets better once you do it. You just have to sit down and do it. And if you're unsure really, hey John, where can I go? Where do I advertise these things? Go talk to somebody. Go talk to a book marketer. Go talk to a writing coach. Go talk to a freelance book person. We know how to do this. Like, you don't have to struggle and do this alone, and you don't have to sit there and go, oh man, I'll never figure this out. Ask for help. There's a ton of stuff on the internet that's, not bad advice. But like advice with anything else, there's a lot of contradiction, and you're going to end up having to sort through a lot of this and a lot of that. Just ask. Just ask for help. But you can use social media. You can go outside your comfort zone. You can use your blog. You can guest post on other people's blogs. You just have to step outside your normal comfort zone, and there's plenty of spaces to advertise. You could advertise the old-fashioned way, mailers and billboards and placards and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It'd be a little bold, actually. You're not limited just because it sounds technologically fancy. You don't only have to stay on Twitter or only stay on Facebook. You should consider advertising in as many places and in as many ways as possible. Nothing wrong with that. Be willing to think past the boundaries you expect, and you will surprise yourself. Good question. Good marketing question. Are there, however, while I get a mouthful of water, Are there, however, any questions from anybody? Hi, chat. Anybody in chat tonight? I had the most amazing dinner, but good grief am I thirsty. This week's tea, I'm so glad you asked. It's French. It's just straight black tea, but it's got this really tremendous, like, candy bar kind of taste. It tastes a little like a Heath bar. It's incredible. I don't remember where I've had it. It was in the closet. I've had it for a while. It was very good. Hey, John, what do you do to get rid of a headache? Okay, good question. Love these questions. Go get a large glass of water, big glass of water. And into that glass of water, you're going to want to take one regular cereal spoon full of ground ginger. Then you're going to dump that ground ginger into that big-ass cup of water, stir it all around to dissolve, and you're going to sip it slowly. Then wait about 10 minutes. If that doesn't work, an ice pack on the back of your neck. If that doesn't work, eat something really spicy and then have a piece of chocolate. No one's ever really come to me for medical advice, so I'm just glad I could help. Good stuff. Love those questions. More people should ask me random shit. It's amusing. Other questions, issues, comments, concerns, else we shall march along to whatever's next. Yeah, give it a shot. Let me know. I know it works on migraines. It'll absolutely kick a migraine in the teeth in like 15, 20 minutes. It's amazing. I learned that from a really, really cool person who regrettably does not watch my streams. For shame. They listen to the podcast. They're fine. I'll still shame them later. Shall we move on? Other questions? Let's move on. Question number 4. How much leeway will a publisher give me if I want to change a book mid-draft? Oh boy. Okay. On one hand, it depends on the publisher. If you're at a big giant publisher, you might get a little leeway. Little is very variable here. I can't say for certain it's going to be some percent of leeway. The smaller your publisher, the less leeway you are likely to have because they have probably put a lot of eggs in the basket of your book. It also depends on what you want to change in your book mid-draft. So if you've signed a deal, right, and you've got a date and a contract and a plan and there's an editor and everything all set up, right? It's no big deal to suddenly change a character's name. You just go through that, make a simple edit. But if you all of a sudden decide like, oh shit, we're no longer doing this in third person, you guys, your editor and your publisher well, you're not that late. You're a little late, but it's really good to see you. You can ask your question. It's okay. I'm coming back to the publisher one, though. The more radical your change, the less leeway, practically zero leeway you'll have. Because they've got plans. Like, if you're publishing this yourself, change all you want. Go ahead. Go happy. Do whatever makes you thrill yourself. But if other people are counting on your book, they're going to get paid by it. They're going to sell by it. They're trying to get their thing off the ground. And you decide you want to make big radical changes, please understand that they're probably going to be really upset and may also just say no. Or in some cases, boot you from your deal because it's not going to be worth their time, effort, or headache. Then they'll need that glass of water with ground ginger in it. Like, be really careful. If you get just a flight of fancy where you decide, oh, I'm going to change my book, because publishers hate that. It's one thing when you're just drafting and you're just writing for yourself, and it's just kind of like, you're not really taking it very seriously. You're not really committed to anything yet. You can just change whatever you want, whenever you want. But the minute now you've started to involve other people, you've started to involve money, you've started to involve business, you're going to run into a lot of pushback. Do not get in the habit of expecting positive response to saying, guys, I'm going to change the book up. Don't do that. Now, somehow, some way, if you have a long career, if you've been doing this 10, 15, 20 or more years, and you've got many, many very well-selling books to your name, you probably get a little bit more leeway. But if you're new at this, and I'm going to say new is anything with, fewer than 3 books to your name, I would not expect any leeway at all and be surprised with whatever leeway you do get. I can tell you that from a business side, whenever I had an author tell me that they were going to change their book, my vote was almost always to either push them back a whole calendar year, which means delaying paying them a whole calendar year, or dropping them entirely and picking up something else. It's just not worth it. Not the way books are going out now. Not the way traditional publishing is operating now. Don't just decide on a whim, hey, we're going to change the book up. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Okay? Great question. Question number 5. A personal question to me. Why don't more people talk to freelance editors and writing coaches? I spent a lot of time today thinking about this, and I think there's 2 reasons. 1, they expect a sales pitch. They have this weird kind of idea that anytime you come talk to me as a coach or me as an editor or, random editor or coach over there, you're going to get a sales pitch every time. Now, I'm going to tell you flat out, I do pitch a lot. Why? I'm tired of being poor, frankly. Like, I don't like not having the ability to eat. And I think I can help everybody. And from everywhere I know, like it's just how you do what you do. I think part of the reason is they don't want the sales pitch. They don't want to have to reject the other person. They don't want to say like, no, or this, that, or the other. But I think there's another reason. And I think that's because if you go talk to an editor or you go talk to a writing coach, you are committing to something, even in theory, that maybe you are not interested in committing to, not ready to commit to, or you never wanted to commit to it in the first place. There are, to be generous, let's say millions of writers on the planet. They're not all serious. You're probably friends with multiple writers who will never get out of the gate, who will never finish a draft, who will never, even if they do finish a draft, take it to publication, even self-publication. Because those next steps probably have a pay, something to pay for, a paywall or an invoice to pay, or they need to hire somebody, or they need to do something, and they need to commit to something. And when writing is all fun and abstract, and it's just this thing I'm doing, whatever, you guys, there's no threat to it. There's no risk. There's no real danger to it. It's just, it's no different than really playing a video game in your afternoon or just hanging out and goofing off. But when all of a sudden a freelance editor or a writing coach or somebody else comes in and says, hey, you can get good at this, and the fun thing starts looking more and more like a job, because let's be fair and let's be really clear, being a full-time writer whose writing pays the bills is a full-time job. You want to get good at this, you better treat it like a job. You cannot get good at this treating this as a once in a month, once in a blue moon thing. If you're serious about it, be serious about it. And these people who work in the industry, freelance editors, writing coaches, book layout people, all that stuff, the pro people who get paid for a living, they're treating your stuff seriously. And there is nothing more frustrating on my end than talking to people who are like, oh man, one day I'm going to be, I'm going to have this bestseller. I'm going to do this and that. And then you talk to them about their practice and their craft and what's going on, and they're not there. And they're not going to get there because they're disinterested. They like the idea. They like the fantasy more than the practicality. So I think more people don't talk to freelance editors and writing coaches because they're not ready to grapple with their own sense of, yeah, I really want to do this, versus it's just this like fun thing I fuck around with. That's why I think people don't talk to freelance editors and coaches. It's a marvelous question. On we go to the next. Oh my God, it's gentle advice. And it's a related question. Fancy that. Gentle advice. How do I know if I'm going to make it as an author? You don't. There are no guarantees in this business, and it is a business. You have no idea if you're going to make it as an author. How are you going to find out? You got to treat it like a job. You got to show up every day. You got to work hard every time you sit down to work. You can't let yourself off the hook just because, I don't really feel it. No, you got to show up and do the work. Like you have a day. If you're the sort of person who has a day job, there have been days where you had a big case of the I don't wannas and you still got to go into work, right? That's a thing. How do you know if you're going to make it as an author? Well, you don't know how you're going to be received. You don't know if you're going to sell 1 copy, 1,000 copies, 10 copies, or whatever. You don't know how many stars you're going to get. You don't know how many reviews you're going to get, like we talked about before. But the one thing in this whole factor you can control is how you treat your work and how you treat your perception of yourself. If you come along and you treat this seriously, you do the work, you take the notes, you ask questions, you study, you seek out experts who can help you. You don't just throw a credit card at whatever fly-by-night grifter scam comes along. You don't pretend that if you just wait long enough, the info will be free and then eventually you'll get around to it. You're serious about it. You act on it when you can. You exchange your excuses for opportunity. You are more likely to do better as a producing author, meaning a person who's writing a book. But past that, all that stuff's out of your control. You don't know how you're going to be received. You don't know if you're going traditional, you don't know how many queries will be rejected on their way to success. You have no idea. You can't control that. You can write a great query, and it can just, for factors out of your control, just not line up. You don't know if you're going to make it as an author, but what you have to feel in here, in the body, gut, heart, soul kind of thing, you have to know that you are willing to do your best and do your damnedest every time. And if you think about it, and if you understand that this is a process and that you can control what you can control and what you can control, you do your best at, you can show up and put yourself in a position where opportunity will be there for you. Part of that's gratitude. Part of that is not knocking yourself down every chance you get. Part of that is stop hanging out with dumbass people who are pulling you down. Part of that comes down to choosing your work over not work. But even all that, you don't know if you're going to make it. You got to try. You got to just jump out there and see if it works. And you're going to screw it up. You're going to make mistakes. We all do. Everybody does. But you got to try. So you don't know, but you can feel it. And if you're willing to feel it and do the work, not just go in on like, I feel like I'll totally do it, but then you don't do any goddamn work, it's not going to happen. It's feeling plus work leads to potential success. I hope that makes sense. Don't sit there and daydream about it. It's nice. That's good. It's always good to work on your mindset. It's the most critical tool you've got in your toolbox. But at the same time, the work and the effort, not the rush, not the haste, not the desperation, not the I'll prove it to you, whatever. None of that matters. It doesn't matter. You got to show up. You got to do the work. And you got to try. And if you keep doing that, you keep asking questions, and you keep pushing yourself, you'll end up with a combination of talent, discipline, luck, and opportunity. And you'll get where you want to be. It takes time. Okay? I believe in your ability. I just hope you follow through. I really do. While I get more water in my face, are there any more questions from chat? People came in. Hello. If you got questions, now's the time to ask them. Oh, we're getting another mouthful of water. That stuff's delicious. Oh, it's good. All right. Questions? Anybody? No? I guess we're all sort of just thrilled to be back. That's fine. It's cool. It's just good to see you guys. It's good to get back in the groove with this. We're trying. Getting back up to speed. On we go. On we go. Question number 7. Why does everybody worry so much about pacing? Well, I don't know how to tell you this. Pacing's one of those things that sounds really technical, so it sounds like it's something you could totally argue about on the internet. But it's one of those parts like inertia where it exists, but you don't really have to worry about it. It's just kind of there. Your pacing in your story is a thing under your control, but not necessarily directly under your control. Pacing happens when you move from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next over the course of the story. Your pacing is naturally established. If you want to speed your pacing up, there are ways to do that. And if you want to slow your pacing down, there are ways to do that. But you establish your pacing. It's not this arbitrary thing that comes along. It's not like, you tick a box after the fact and apply it like a filter to a selfie. You set your pacing up. That's on you. That's your thing. People worry about it because they think, based on what they read and what other people talk about, pacing is this external thing that comes and people really give a shit about it over your shoulder. No. I mean, people care about pacing because they don't want to be bored, senseless, waiting for your story to get going. But that's a thing that's generated by you moving the story along, going from scene to scene, controlling the speed and timing and urgency and risk and stakes in each scene, going from one to the next to the next. People worry about it because it's something to micromanage when otherwise it just comes down to you've got to just keep writing. But pacing, I think, is one of those topics that just gets inflated by social media, made into a thing. Because bad pacing is awful. Bad pacing is terrible. But at the same time, we don't really talk about okay pacing. Or better than okay, but not outstanding pacing. But we worry about it because it's something we can control. Yeah, because it's the movement of from scene to scene and action to action and beat to beat and beat cycle to beat economy and all the stuff we talked about on Monday. I hope that answers the question. A lot of people just need something to worry about. So they pick pacing. A couple of years ago, people really gave a shit about punctuation. And everybody was all about commas and semicolons and em dashes. And that's why there are very divided camps for em dashes and semicolons and commas and all that. And pacing's the new hotness. And eventually pacing will fall away and we'll probably get talking about, I don't know, parentheses or something like that. I have no idea. But pacing, it's the thing under the spotlight right now. Okay? It's a good question. On we go. Question number 8. I have never been asked this question before. I went all the way back for as far back as I've been recording questions. I've never been asked this question. And I went back through some of the audio from like way back in the day. Nobody ever asked this. So first time for everything. Here, have some air horns. Because I was blown away by this question. What's the biggest mistake I saw a writer make this week? Well, okay. Other than, I had somebody tell me 2 weeks ago that they were going to hire me and then all of a sudden, like, they didn't. That's not so much a mistake. I mean, that's a mistake in the sense of, like, I could have helped them and they wouldn't be, stuck with the people we're at now. But the biggest constructive, practical mistake I saw this week, I saw somebody talk to me one day, get really organized. We spent like 2 hours on the phone. They got really organized. I walked them right through the outline. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. This scene, get rid of this, keep this, move this over here. Walked them right through. Help them organize so that their second draft, because they just did a first draft, their second draft was going to be a much smoother process for them. I was excited. They were excited. I checked back in 2 or 3 days later. I checked back in. Hey, how's it going? Do you have any other questions? What's going on? Just give me an update. And I get told by this person that they went back to their critique group, and one of the people in their critique group is a self-published person. They just put their first 7 books up last weekend all at once on Amazon, and they said not to do the outline and the second draft the way I said to do it. And so they changed their entire book. They changed character names. They changed organizing scenes. They changed the plot. They changed so much that it's now a completely different book. And instead of it being a second draft off the bones of a pretty all right first draft, it is practically a first draft of somebody else's idea that they're going to try and just carry forward. They're excited, they're hyped up, but that's because this published author came along and whispered in their ear and said hey, don't do your idea, do my thing. If I were you, I would do it this way. And then they let themselves be influenced by that. So I would say that the biggest mistake I saw somebody make this week, they let the whims of somebody else who's on a different track of success influence them far more than they should. That's the biggest mistake I saw. Other people are going to buzz around you like flies all the time. They're going to, I believe, as my grandmother would say, they'd cluck like chickens all over the place. And you have to learn how to pick and choose who you're going to listen to, how much of them you're going to listen to, when you're going to listen to them. And you get to choose if you do that at all, if you follow the advice, or if it's just, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, thanks, and then you leave it alone. You're under zero obligation, no matter who's giving you feedback. I don't care if it's, random lady on the internet, or a person in your critique group, or a published author, or an editor, or a coach, or a publisher, or grandma, or whomever. You are under zero obligation to act on the feedback you get from somebody else. Feedback will always be a suggestion. Now, that suggestion might come with some experience and some emphasis and some explanation behind it. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. And if somebody else comes along and ever starts a sentence with you with, if I were writing it, this is what I would do, you certainly don't have to listen to it. Because if they really want to write your thing their way, go write their thing. They can go do their own thing. It's a free world. Do not let other people's helpful feedback, I'm just helping you guys, don't let that kind of run over your work. Don't let them tell you what you're going to write. Go create your art. Don't be in such a rush to get published, to be taken seriously as a writer, to feel good as a writer, to be validated, to be one of the in-group. Don't put such a premium on that you forget that the thing that's going to get you there is how you stand out from everybody else. Don't just agree and nod with the first person you see. Don't just say oh, well, they got published, they must know what they're doing. You know how many shitty books get published? You don't have to take everybody's advice. Golly, Jack, you don't have to trade the cow to literally anybody who offers you beans. Don't get suckered in by somebody. Let them go write their own things. You don't have to follow up. And if they get mad, fuck them. Really, truly, if they get mad that you didn't take their advice, fuck them. Tell them to fuck off. Doesn't matter who they are. It's still your work. You get to choose what you apply and to what degree you apply it. Okay? Don't just let anybody come along and tell you that you're doing everything wrong. Believe in yourself. Keep making your progress. Ask questions. You'll get where you want to be. It just might not look like their path. Their pathway over there, that's for them. You leave them over there. You're over here. You're on your path. It might look the same sometimes. It might look totally different sometimes. But they're different paths. Okay? You deserve a fair chance at your own path. You don't have to jump over there to somebody else's. You got your own. Just stay there and keep going. Okay? Great question. Question number 9. I'm going to get one mouthful of water. I'm really sorry. Hang on. 2 seconds. Nope. Where's my teacup? God, that's good. It tastes like candy. Okay. Question number 9. What's one piece of advice I wish I listened to 10 years ago? All right. 10 years ago, I wasn't sober. I was doing this job. I wasn't sober. There was a lot of advice I received that I did not come close to listening to. And I'm not going to count the, hey, John, you should stop drinking and doing drugs. Like, that's a given, but 10 years ago, I was not interested in learning those lessons yet. Okay? So one piece of just writing business advice I wish I listened to. Man, that's really tough. There's a couple good ones. So can I give you more than one? Would that be all right? Can I give you more than one? All right. Here's the first one. I really wish I had gotten in the habit of saving files with very distinguishable names and not just calling them, draft, title of my book, draft date, or title of my book, draft 3B, or whatever. I wish I had a clearer labeling system. I wish I had the labeling system I have now, where everything goes into its own folder. Because I got fired. This is a terrible story. I got fired from a couple jobs because when somebody asked me to submit how much work I had done, I sent them the wrong file. They thought I hadn't done the right amount of work, and they let me go. But I know for a fact that I did the whole book. I know I did. Because I remember, the comments I wrote. I remember the notes I left. I have, the hard copy. I used to. I don't so much anymore. But I used to handwrite all my notes on a legal pad and then dump them into Word later. I had all the evidence. They didn't care. They didn't believe me. The file I sent them wasn't right. And the more they were like, are you sure this is the right file? They gave me chances. Are you sure this is the right file? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's totally the right file. It wasn't. It wasn't. Years later, early in the pandemic lockdown, I was going through and cleaning out hard drives and thumb drives and stuff. I found the original file. I found my completed draft. It's too late. The book's out on shelves. You can go buy it. They got somebody else to come in and finish it up. I lost $4,000 worth of potential work. It's one of the last projects I did for those people. They've not called me back since. They didn't even write happy birthday on my Facebook wall kind of a thing. It badly burns some bridges. So item number 1, file organization. I wish I paid attention. Item number 2. Item number 2. I really wish I was a better listener. 10 years ago, I was really certain I knew all the answers. To be fair, I'm still pretty sure I know a lot of answers. But 10 years ago, I was pretty sure I knew all the answers. And I was pretty sure that I was the best choice anybody could come to get answers. I still think I'm a damn fine choice. I don't think I'm the best everywhere. But 10 years ago, I was like, you come to me and fuck everybody else. And people did. A lot of people did. And it was great and it was fun, but I was not a great listener. You'd ask me a question at whatever it was, how do I get better at doing this? How do I write this? Here's where I want to go. How do I get there? And I'd answer. I'd give you the roadmap. I'd tell you how to outline it. I'd walk you through a couple ideas. But I didn't engage with the deeper stuff. I used to avoid that, you ever talk to somebody and you get a sense of oh, you're worried about getting rejected, right? There's nervousness in your voice. I hear hesitation. I get a sense from what you've written and how you've described it that you're nervous or afraid or embarrassed or you're just not sure. Rather than dive deep into that and talk to the person as a person, I saw writers as problems to resolve. And that worked, but it unplugged me from a lot of great tools. It unplugged me from a real, like, whole half of the business that makes my business far better now. A little slower, far better. If you were to compare the work I do now with the work I did then, some of it's still the same stuff. It's still the inline edits, still the comments, still an email every now and then. Hey, here's what's up. But the depth, the detail, and my ability to explain it to you, night and day. Night and goddamn day. If you took me from 10 years ago and sat him here and me here and asked us the same question, you'd get two different answers. And me now, I'd blow that guy out the water because I'll engage with you as a person. So second piece of advice, you got to connect with the person you're talking to. You got to connect with your reader. It's not just about the technical accuracy and performance of writing. It's about you being a person, being able to craft art in a way that engages another person. So you're meeting them where they're at, not just where you want them to be, not just, whipping out your genitals and describing them and just showing off how much you know. You got to meet people where they're at and bring them roughly to where you want them to be. And to do that, you have to embrace a great deal of humility, humanity, emotions, and responsibility. And I, 10 years ago, was not anywhere prepared to do that. I was barely ready to accept that maybe I kind of had a problem. Yeah. Second piece of advice, you got to engage your reader. You got to engage people as people. And you got to understand. Third piece of advice, not everybody's going to do this. That's the tough one. That's the hard one. Not every writer that you meet, that I meet, is going to finish a draft, finish a book, publish, sell. They'll talk about it. They'll tell you they've been working on this book forever. They'll show you how they're doing revisions for the umpteenth time. They'll talk about how they got this great new idea and they're really excited. They'll talk about the project they've had on the works for 15 years. They're just had to wait for the right thing. Oh, next month I'll start. Next year I'll start. Oh, I got this other idea. All those people will not make it. They will not make it. They're not bad people. They're not, like, you could hang out with them. You could, take your pants off with them. You could have a snack with them, play a video game with them. Cool. But they're not going to be the published author they talk about being. Some of them don't have the chops. Some of them don't have the skill. They're not interested in really doing what they need to do to pursue it. It's too much work. And they're just not prepared for it. They're just not interested in it. They want the answer fast. They want the answer quick. They don't want to have to work for it. It's supposed to be fun all the time. And that's wrong. It's not always fun. Other people, you can't tell them anything. They know everything. They read a couple books they got about writing. They follow some business people on Twitter. They know it all. They're not going to make it either because they're seeing this as less of an art and more of a business, and creativity straddles those two things, art and business, not just all the one, not just all of the other. The other group of people, they just like to talk about it. They just like to talk about it. They just like, one day I'll be an author. One day I'll do this. One day I'll do that. Yep. Well, one day I'll be 90 if I live that long. One day I'll have a burrito. Like, one day there will be clouds, different colors in the sky. Like, one day could be anything. One day is meaningless. But that's the space they sit in because that space is safe for them. It's protected from them. Nobody's arguing with them. Nobody's challenging them. Nobody needs to, give them a little bit of a push. No one needs to question how hard they're working. No one needs to reject them or pressure them. They can just sit in this little bubble where they don't have to really do anything, but they can talk real big. You're going to see a lot of those people in online spaces. And not everybody you talk to, people you love, people you care about, people you hang out with, people you know, maybe you. Not everybody's going to make it. 10 years ago, I would have dug my feet in and said, without a doubt, I will get everybody published. You come talk to me, I will, even if I got to like pull you by the nose hair to get you there, I'll get you there. I wasted a lot of time on a lot of people. I wasted a lot of energy where I could have been directing it to something else. I know I let other people down trying to get some people across the finish line. I was so busy trying to bring the most number of people over, I could have spent more time and focus with a few specific people and really blasted them off, really taken them off in a different direction. Not everybody's going to make it. Now, just a quick note. If you're listening to this and you think I'm talking to you when I say not everybody's going to make it, and your first thought is, oh, I'm not going to make it. I don't know what to tell you, but that's going to be true until you try to prove it otherwise. If you keep telling yourself, if you keep swearing up and down that you're not going to make it, don't be surprised at all when you don't make it. If you want to make it, if you want to be published, if you want this to be your career, you want this to be the thing that pays your bills, you want this to be the thing that gets you out of that day job that's killing your soul, you want this to be the thing you do, you got to treat it like it's the only thing you do. Sit down and write when you can write. Treat this the way you would the best job in the world, because this can be the best job in the world. But it is still going to be a job. There are going to be days you don't want to do it. There are going to be days when it's harder than other days. There are going to be days where you've got to do uncomfortable parts. There's going to be distractions and frustration, and you just have to weather it. But if you're the sort of person who's listening to this and you think to yourself, the minute I say, well, not everybody's going to make it, the minute you jump on, you're like, you're right, John, I'm not going to make it. You're proving yourself right until you try and challenge yourself otherwise. I really wish more people would ask this kind of question, not just to me, though I think this makes for great stuff, but I wish they would ask this question to themselves. I think we can get really good gold out of the earth from this. I think we can really take ourselves and take our thoughts and take our ideas in better directions and in better places with stuff like these last two questions. Think it over. More tea and water break. Are there any questions from anybody in chat? We got kind of heavy there for the last two questions. I apologize if you were not expecting heaviness on our first day back. If you were looking for more like whack zanerific fun, I'm really sorry. But such is the nature of this sometimes. Sometimes I just put the mic on and things happen. Questions? Anybody? Else, I will just drink more water because I'm out of tea, and we will march on. We're almost done. Could I talk more about my filing system now, you mean? Sure. So, my old system was grouped by month, by calendar time. This was my old system, and at the time, it made sense to me because I would say, okay, so we started this project in October, and even if it was January, I knew the files would all be in October because that's when I started. It made it really easy at the time for taxes because I could figure out what quarter into what thing went. What I have now is a bit more, it's not complicated, but it's a bit more exact. Here's my current filing system. So I have one large folder labeled by year. So in my case, there's 2022 coaching, 2022 editing, 2022 writing, like if somebody pays me to write a thing, and 2022 marketing for the 2 people this year who have come to me and been like, hey, help me market my book. Inside that big 2022 folder, there's a subfolder. The subfolder is then by the person, the client. 2022, let me think of somebody. 2022 Mark. Now, he's the only Mark I have in 2022. Otherwise, it would be, Mark H, Mark A, whatever. Mark. Inside the Mark folder, there's a subfolder for each of the Mark things. If, because I have clients who have multiple books with me. So I'll have, 2022 editing, open that folder up. I go to the folder labeled, let's do, let's name check a client, Angela. And inside of Angela, I have a folder for each of the books. And then inside of a projects folder, a books folder, or if it's coaching, it's just a coaching notes pile of notes files where we do individual chapter by chapter, or it's just my general notes for we talked on the phone on this day and this is what we talked about, that kind of thing. Inside the subdivided project folder, you're going to see a text file with all my notes in it, like where I keep track of what I did, how long it took me, what we talked about, what they mentioned in the phone call, like any casual notes they gave me, like, hey, next week they're not around because they're taking their daughter over here, or he'll be out next week because he's going back to work or whatever, or she gave birth, take her off the calendar for a month, that kind of thing. But then also whatever technical files I need, and each file is labeled the title of the book or the title of the project, then an underscore, because I love underscores. I'm from that era of computing. Underscore, and then CH if it's a chapter, or MS if it's a whole book, or, half MS if it's half a file, or 150 MF if it's the first 50 pages or whatever. And then instead of using the date, because the date's already on the file metadata, the shorthand I use for whatever it is, so you'll get, let me think of one I just did. You'll get, Wandering Spirit. What did I do? Wandering Spirit underscore MS underscore 200 to 300, because it's pages 200 to 300 from the old formatted file she gave me. 200 to 300 underscore CHK, meaning fully checked. Underscore JA, because that's the file I sent back to her. So that I can look at, when I pop open the Finder or the File Explorer or whatever I'm looking at, I can look at the file name in full, and it's long as hell. I can tell you exactly what it is, exactly how much of it is, what I did, and if it's done or not. In order. Name, size, kind of thing it is, what am I doing to it? It takes however many more seconds it takes to type with my fingers, but I do that for every client, for every book, for every coaching session, for every freebie. If you come to me for a free 30-minute, you get a folder in 2022 coaching. Everybody gets one now. I no longer just dump everything into 2022 because I'm tired of having to root around. I don't do it so much anymore. Every once in a while, if you email me something at 3:00 in the morning and I get it back to you at 5:00 in the morning and I'm not entirely awake, sometimes I will accidentally send somebody the wrong file because it's the thing I had open. But by and large, the more specific I can be in my organizing, way better time I have with work. Absolutely the way better time. It's just super helpful. What a great question. It used to be, we'll go way back in the day. even before there were, what I used to do when I first got started, like when I was fresh out of school with this, this was still in like the early laser inkjet days. I used to print everything every time. So somebody would give me a book, and I'd print the entire book, and then I'd go in and make the edits, and then I would print the edited pages, and then I would have a handwritten copy, a digital copy, and a copy I send them. That was fine when I was like 24 and new at this and only had like 1 or 2 clients. Now that would murder me, not only because I'd be spending hundreds of dollars on ink, and I don't know if my printer can handle it, but over time, your organization as a writer has to evolve. We should probably do a Monday night class on organizing at some point. Probably organizing and outlining. I already have next Monday set up, but maybe we'll bump that for 2 Mondays from now. Or maybe we'll scrap a chat and we'll do it as a bonus on a Wednesday or something. Because organizing, and I'm going to sound so old when I say it, organizing fundamentally really and truly makes a difference. I used to not care because I thought it was cooler to not. What a jackass I was. I used to think it was cooler to not care and just kind of be like, oh, whatever. But no, you need to be organized. Not just for taxes, not just for like the bullshit of capitalism, but just in general, your ability to be like, hey, 3 weeks ago, you told me this in a meeting. How's that going? And to be attentive and to be functional and to be helpful and to be aware. It's everything a client wants from me. So I try to do that. What a great question. Are there any others? Ooh, that's delicious. Can I get more before we go to bed? Shall we keep going? Let's keep going. If you have more questions, just fire away in chat. Question 10. How do you fix a book that's supposed to be funny, but isn't? Again, you're not really going to like this answer. You can make something more serious. You can make something more dramatic or more urgent. It's really hard to make something funny. The best way to make something funny when it isn't is to start over. It's really hard to inject humor into a thing. You got to be building that humor from the beginning, and that's going to start with tone and voice, which means it's almost always going to be like a real conscientious effort. Almost always, if you've got a manuscript and you swear it's a comedy, but it's not reading funny, chances are it's a voice thing. And the easiest way to fix voice, especially at that level, is to do massive rewrites. And if you've got that many massive rewrites queued up, it is better off to scrap it and come at the project in a new direction. It's hard to inject funny and not have it feel forced. Sorry. But most of the time, writing humor is the toughest thing because it's real subjective, because it requires real diligence and craft. And it's one thing to be funny verbally, and it's one thing to be funny in casual language, just talking to your friends, text messages, social media, that kind of thing. It's another animal entirely to be funny in long-form prose. And it's been my experience so far. Granted, I've only done about a dozen or so comedies in 20 years. When it's not funny and it's supposed to be, the best thing you can do rather than try and force it or fix it is just hand them a blank page and say, okay, let's come at this a different way, and start trying to get the tone set right away so that the humor does land. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. Now, there is a question over here in chat. I'm going to throw it up on the screen because it's a real good one. What's the earliest in the novel writing process I like to see writers? And when do I feel is the most useful time? I like to see writers whenever. Whenever. Day 1, day 1,000, anywhere in between. The earliest I like to see them I don't know, a couple days after they figure out they want to write a novel. The more successful people I have ever worked with are people who came to me early because they didn't, how do I say this? For all my clients who ever made the bestseller list, for all my clients who went on to win awards and have careers and, stop working day jobs because they're writing books, they've been one of two cases. One, they got in with me super early and they didn't have to unlearn a lot of bad habits. They were able to start on the ground floor with real practical craft, and we were able to grow and develop and get going where we needed to go together. It took a little bit longer, but they had a much better toolkit for their first book that they carried forward to their second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, whatever, and you don't really have to worry about it at that point. At that point, it's a machine. It runs on its own. That's group number one. Group number two, people who came with an idea in some form, whether it's just an idea, whether it's an outline, whether it's a couple scenes, whether it's the first 5 pages, whether it's the first half of a whatever, whether it's a whole book. But they were determined to get better, and they knew things weren't right, and they were tired of getting the shitty advice they were getting. They were tired of hearing the same thing over and over. So they just decided they were going to stop that shit and come back and talk to me. And yeah, there's an unlearning process there. They got to get rid of those bad habits. They got to challenge. Well, I read on the internet that. I heard from so-and-so that. And you got to kind of scrub that out a little bit. But they're early enough in their writing process that I'm not just doing a copy edit or a thing 5 minutes before they click publish on Amazon and, oh, by the way, your character arc isn't a character arc. Like, we're working from an early stage. For me, anywhere is a great time to talk to writers, to meet them, because at any point in the process, we're doing different stuff. You come get me early, we're doing everything from outlining, we're doing idea generation to outlining to drafting to final drafting to moving on to publishing to marketing. For me, honestly, I think if you have the idea sorted out and you're working on anything from outlining to drafting, that's where it's most useful. I don't mind helping you sort out the idea. I'm phenomenal at helping you sort out ideas. But if you really want to see big progress, if you really want to see like large, I don't want to use a sports metaphor and say large home runs, but if you really want to see big steps forward in your growth as a writer, come to me after you've got the idea sorted out and before you've finished your second draft. That's a big sweet spot. Anywhere in there, and we can work, and we can do a lot of work, and it can go really well. The reason why you want to do it before you finish your second draft is because most of the time, the amount of steps between your second draft and your third draft, because most people want to do it in 3 drafts and get it done, because by then they're frustrated. The amount of stuff there, because if you start pulling things apart in a third draft, people get real fidgety. Oh my God, I've been working on this for so long. It doesn't matter. But post idea generation, pre-end of second draft, big sweet spot. That's exactly where I want somebody to come to me and go, hey, can you help me with this? I am always happy to help people. Anytime, you just got to ask. That's really, truly what I'm here for. Great question. Love that question. Let me go to the next. What do you do when you find out somebody else is writing a story similar to yours? Go have lunch? I think this question is asking me if you should just quit. And the answer is no. No, you should not quit. I don't care. Publishing doesn't care. Nobody cares. If you're writing a story about aliens who eat lima beans and somebody else is writing a story where aliens are eating garbanzo beans, like, it's not about who's ripping who off. That's weird. It's not about, like, who's, I had the idea first and that person's stealing from me, because they're just ideas. It's brain chemicals and electricity. Like, if somebody else, I don't care who, is writing a story that is similar to yours. Now, remember, similar is real vague. Similar, like you have a character named Susan, I have a character named Susan. How dare you? Or similar, like the aliens eat beans or something. Or similar, like you have a story with horses, I have a story with horses. Whatever the hell similar is doesn't really matter. If somebody else is making a story and it's similar to yours, wish them well. Because what you need to do is focus on your story. Not how similar it is to somebody else's. Just focus on yours. Just make yours the best it can be. Because, and this is true, if you gave two people the same story prompt, hell, even the same outline, and then said, hey, go write this story, you will get two different stories because they are two different people writing the thing. Similarity is not bad. This is not kindergarten where all of a sudden somebody's got the same lunchbox as you and you just can't have lunch today. This is not nursery school where you wanted to be the only person wearing pink. Similarity doesn't matter. There's plenty of room at the table for everybody to produce every awesome thing they want. If somebody else has a story similar to yours, wish them well and get back to work on focusing on yours. Don't freak out. Don't panic. Don't get real cranky on the internet and say, oh my God, this person stole it, because that's asinine. Knock that shit off. All that energy you would take getting all worked up, put it towards making your story good. Put it towards doing the work you need to do. Put it towards writing. Put it towards finishing your thing. It'll make a difference. Okay? Focus on your shit. Do your shit the best. That's what everybody wants. Other people are other people. They're doing other people things. Let them. Leave them alone. Focus on you. Be the most authentic you can be. Do your work. Okay? Good question. And lastly, oh boy, how do I make the most of my writing group experience? Mouthful of water. Gotta forgive me. Okay. For years, I ran a writing group. It was very successful. It went from about 3 or 4 people to half a dozen people to 20 people to about 100 people. It was so big, we got booted out of the store we were in. We were there every night. It became this huge thing. The store wanted to charge us like rent because we were just there so much. And it was a lot of fun. I made lifelong friends. I learned a lot. I would do it again in a heartbeat, given a chance. How can you make the most of it out of our writing experience? Out of being a participant in a writing group like this, plain and simple like this. Every time you sit down to go to group, you are there to learn something. There's no quiz, there's no test, but you should be there to learn. Somebody somewhere is going to give you some advice. Hopefully many people will give you advice. Get it all down. Record it, look at notes, whatever you got to do. And then, like we talked about before, pick and choose the advice you want. You don't have to jump on everything. You don't have to act on everything. But pick and choose what it is you want. Okay? Weigh the advice. This seems practical to me. I think I can do this. This seems impractical to me. I don't think I can do that. Pick and choose. Learn to discern. Second thing, when you are asked to give critique, when you are asked to give feedback, you don't have to be an academic. You don't have to know everything. What you need is to just be honest. Be the authentic you. So you don't need to know like, oh, well, it seems like you're really letting down the Hughes form of thematic development, or, your psychic distance is all over the place. You don't need to know those things. That's not going to help you. But if you're able to tell this other writer, I was reading your chapter and I was confused here, 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 and here. And this was unclear to me and that was unclear to me. And you're able just to point out what was unclear and what didn't work and what was this and what was that. That's going to make the more valuable experience. The technical stuff, the terminology and stuff, that comes later. Don't worry about that right now. But if you want to be the best writing group member you can be, listen to other people and speak honestly when it's your turn. That's all you can do. That's everything. You don't have to be mega super accurate in terms of like terminology or anything. That's not your job. Your job is to function as a reader with a mind. If you can do that, you will always have a seat at a writing group. Also, by the way, just do the writing if you're supposed to do the writing, or do the reading if you're supposed to do the reading. Don't fake it, don't wing it, don't skip it. Be invested if you want to be invested. Otherwise, get out and let somebody else in. Okay? The best thing you can do is just speak honestly to the best of your ability. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be upset that, well, I don't have a degree in this. Who gives a shit if you have a degree in it? Just speak clearly and honestly. You're just trying to help other people succeed. If it were you on the hearing end and you or somebody was telling you the comments you're going to tell them, how would you want that expressed to you? Focus there. Do that. And it's going to make a huge difference. Okay? What a fantastic way to wrap up tonight. Are there any other questions? That's not the right one. That's the right one. Are there any other questions, issues, comments, concerns, etc.? Else, we'll get out of here. Nothing? Hang on. We're going back. How do I get better at giving feedback in a writer's group? What a great question. Well, like I just said, you're going to want to be honest. Point out what works and what doesn't. You don't have to worry about the jargon of it. But you're going to get better at giving feedback when you understand what it is that you're trying to give feedback on. Like, if somebody hands you this thing they're writing, whatever it is, and you're reading it and, I don't know, something sticks out to you. Let's say the dialogue's real bad. Rather than come down on them like a ton of bricks about the technical rigors of dialogue construction, speak to them plainly. I tried to read your dialogue, man. I really tried, but look at this word here and look at that word here. Don't just make abstract statements. Don't just say like, oh, it sucked, bro. No. You want to when in doubt, take everything to the work. Here's this thing. Hey, what about this? What about that? What did I do with this? How does this work? How does that work? Point to the work, point to it in the work, and then give your feedback. Don't just make broad, like, it was good, I liked it, because that doesn't help anybody. That'll never help anybody. When in doubt, direct your feedback to the page. Hey, right here on page 5 where you have this sentence, I think it'd be better if you took the back half of the sentence and made it the front half, and took the front half and made it the back half. You flip the two around. I really liked what you were doing here, but I got real confused because you got like 5 she's. Who's who? Always take it back to the work, not just the writer. A lot of writers, when they come into a writing group, will get real defensive because all of a sudden you're attacking them. Oh my God, you don't like my work. You must, by extension, therefore not like me. And that's not what this is about. This is about how can we make this work better? Well, you can make this work better by pointing at the work and going, this part, this thing, this sentence, this paragraph, this page, this scene, this whatever, this beat, it's not working. Focus there. Do that. That's how you get better at it. Do that more and more and more. You'll gain more comfort with it. It'll become easier and faster for you to do. Other people will come to you and look to you as somebody who can give that feedback. And you'll just build yourself a nice little support and comfort bubble. You'll also, if your feedback is really good in a writing group, you'll set the collective tone for other people in the group, because they'll go, oh, that's the kind of vibe. That's the kind of thing they're doing. Okay. So they know not to be an asshole, because they'll just mirror you. They'll just do what you're doing. It's a great question. Excellent question. Love it. Love it so much. Thank you so much for asking. Are there any others? Yes? No? As I just pound more water in tea. Good grief. All right. Let's get out of here. To the outro. Yeah, I'm glad to be back too. This was a really good one. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, checking this out. I hope you dug it. It was fantastic to do. I really, really enjoyed it. Got to speak on a breadth of topics, got to cover writing groups, got to talk about advice, got to talk about the past and organizing and a ton of other great shit. It was really, really a pleasure. Thanks so much. If you liked this and you want to see more stuff like it, the best thing you can do, go immediately right now over to patreon.com/JohnHelpsYouWriteBetter. Your very kind donation is always appreciated. It helps keep the light, literally will keep the lights on and keep me fed. The next time I'm here, the next time I'm right back in your ears and across your screens will be Monday, the 22nd. So that's this coming Monday, where we're going to talk about, I have it already sorted out, we're going to talk about tropes and cliches. So that's Monday, the 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern, tropes and cliches right here. Until then, I'll talk to you very soon. All power to all people. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. Do your best to be your best. Take a deep breath, drink some water, don't die, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. See ya.